Anne Claire.
Hi, Meg. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm splendid, thank you.
Oh, what makes you feel splendid today?
I'm just picking the words based on your preferences. You told me last time you like people who use flowery words, so I'm applying myself.
I like it. So splendid. That's nice. I feel marvelous today.
I mean, I'm not going to lie, though. I genuinely do feel excited because we just bought tickets to fly to Portugal for our retreat in June. And that does make me feel quite excited and good. And, that's an actual answer. I'm not lying when I say I'm feeling great.
I feel really great too, because we just booked those flights. I cannot wait to go back to Lisbon. It blew me away last year. It is so gorgeous. I love the cobblestone. I love the beautiful colors of all the buildings. It's by the water, the food. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait to go back. I feel like I would live there if I could.
I mean, we will live there very temporarily. You can look at it this way.
Yeah, we'll live there for
a small week.
Like a week and a half, right?
I mean, a week. Monday to Sunday. Then we go to the valley for another week.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're talking. Okay, yeah. I'm thinking Portugal altogether, but yes, technically we'll be in Lisbon for a week. And then we'll go to the valley, which is where our wonderful retreat takes place. Which I cannot wait for yoga in the mornings. That is because, that's the moment I get to chill a little and just take the class that you teach. And I think that your classes last year finally made me understand what the hype about yoga is. Like my entire life, I'm like, what? I don't get it. Like, okay, it's nice. We're like stretching and stuff, but what's the point? And then I went to Portugal and we did the morning practice that was silent and peaceful, and I had a few emotional releases, and I finally figured out the breathing patterns behind yoga. And once the breathing clicked, I totally got the hype. So you changed my life with your classes last year. So I'm excited. I'm personally so excited for that part.
Oh, that makes me so happy.
Yes, you're so good at being a yoga teacher.
Thank you. It's funny because I literally do it 99.9% of the time in the context of the Recovery Collective. That's 99.9% of me as a yoga teacher. So it has a special place in my heart. But yeah, it always makes me so immensely happy when people have a good time, enjoy, blah, blah, blah. So
yes. Oh gosh, I can't wait to be back there. It'll be so great. So yeah, I'm equally as excited to be traveling in a few months.
Sometimes I wish I could press fast forward, but I'm not sure that's really what I want. I'm maybe we should just have a retreat once a month.
I know, right? We could do that all the time. I mean, summer is so magical. I wish I could just be traveling in Europe every summer for the rest of my life. And at this rate, it's shaping up to be every summer, at least for my professional career, which is kind of cool.
We've had people already asking if they can book next year's retreat. So, of course we do. We have 2 people who have asked, 2023, will you do that again in 2024? At this point, it's going to be a rolling thing.
Yeah.
So let's just start good habits. Meg, in Europe, once a year at least for an entire month per year. That's reasonable. It's only 1/12 of your year.
I know. I wanted to stay longer, but of course I have family obligations and then friend obligations keeping me bookended. It's all related to weddings and baby showers and all those things. So my trip to Europe is just wedged between those things. But I'm hoping one year I can stay for months, 3 months.
There are worse wedgies.
Worse wedgies. I'm excited for the wedgies.
This took a turn. But I was I don't know how to bridge from that to cognitive distortions.
We get either no wedgies or all the
Only wedges. So in case you haven't guessed, we're going to be talking about all or nothing black and white thinking.
Yes.
Because on a more serious note, we have mentioned cognitive distortions a few times on these videos, and we had a few humans curious about the whole black and white thinking bit. And we can guess why. It's kind of the one we bump into the most. I feel like it is.
It is. I see it all the time. That's kind of an example. But I know I see it quite frequently in my practice, just in the way, people think about themselves, in the way they think about creating challenges for themselves. So yeah, with their behaviors, like either or black and white thinking shows up all the time. And so what that really is, and you can piggyback on this definition because I did not read any definitions before coming into this call. It's really like thinking in the form of definitives or extremes. So an example of black and white thinking is, if I don't succeed, I am a failure, right? There is no middle ground. Like, so maybe a person's going to say, if I don't challenge myself every day, I'm not going to challenge myself at all. And they see that there's no middle ground. And so what I remind everyone is, while those extremes can exist, it's not helping you mentally to live in those extremes. Trying to think more in the gray zone of, sometimes I challenge myself and sometimes I don't, is a much more reasonable, realistic place to exist while you are recovering. So that's kind of my little thought there.
No, I like that. Now, I kind of want to zoom out just for 2 seconds, because when we talk about cognitive distortions, we're talking about I don't even know how to call it, a category of thoughts that is very automatic thoughts that we might have, sometimes that are very much like a shortcut. They feel like a mental shortcut to an extent that we all have. So there's nothing wrong with us having them. But unfortunately, they have been shown to actually be quite unhelpful, as in they increase anxiety and they make our perception of reality skewed. And with this one in particular, this black and white, all or nothing kind of thinking, we see that a whole lot because of, I feel like it's the whole the goal setting thing and then the self-critical bit. They're the two chapters. And like you said, finding ways to live and evolve in the gray zones really gives us space to be human and to be flexible, which means everything gets a whole lot more realistic suddenly.
And I do want to point out that all or nothing thinking, or black and white, I kind of use those words interchangeably, leads to setting yourself up for failure, because it's setting a standard of extreme perfection usually. So for instance, there is that we did a video on, quote, all in recovery, where it's that commitment. You're just going to eat everything, all meals, all snacks every day starting today. And you're going to eat what you want and eat freely and intuitively starting today. And all your behaviors are going to stop. And although that does work for some people, it is an example, I think, of all or nothing. And usually what people do is they start out with a lot of vigor and excitement, and then they can't maintain it and it's not sustainable. And the pendulum swings back, and then they feel a sense of failure, when in reality, it's because they set the standard a little too high. They could have set a much more reasonable goal in the middle, which is something that you can set with your team and then build upon as you go.
I love what you just said, because it's kind of two layers. It's not only am I going to set a step forward, not at 0, 100% sort of a step, which means it's more realistic, it's more achievable, it's more compassionate, it meets me where I am at, yada, yada. But also, when I will fail, because we will all fail. Like, and I don't mean that as like, I'm not trying to be mean, but even in my own life with completely irrelevant to recovery goals, it's normal to have blips and to make mistakes and for things not to go well. If I'm in an all or nothing thinking mode, then what? When I make one mistake, then suddenly I'm a failure and I should not try again, right? If I'm in that mind space and in that mindset. Whereas if I'm in the gray area, first of all, maybe I've set a goal that is a lot more compassionate. But secondly, if something doesn't quite go to plan, I have built in compassion because I'm allowing myself to make maybe that mistake, learn from it, and try again instead of saying, well, I'm a failure, might as well not try again. Because that's where I end up being if I'm very like black, white, all or nothing.
Yeah, it creates a sense of defeat when there is no need to be defeated, right? Like it's not helpful, it's not productive to defeat yourself. You're getting in your own way when you set this black and white thinking standard, where if you can find the middle ground and continuously have compassion for your humanness, that's really important. Like, for instance, if I wanted to set my alarm at, because the entrepreneurial mindset of so many books online and like coaches are like, wait, if you want to succeed, you should wake up at 5 a.m. every morning. And you're a loser if you don't. Productivity, grind, it's like that grind culture. If I set that for myself, I would wake up feeling like a total like bum every morning. So it also impacts your mood. Or like maybe it's an achievement for me to wake up at 5 a.m. twice a week and have those 2 days a week where I'm getting ahead of it and like early bird catches the worm thing. Is that realistic? Have I been waking up at 5 a.m.? Absolutely not, because I know myself. And this is another thing I want y'all to do. Check in with yourself and know yourself. If it's unrealistic standard to tell yourself, I'm going to eat my meal plan perfectly 100% of the time, starting now, and you know yourself and you know that's too much at the moment, you need to check in with yourself and be real. Like, don't gaslight yourself into thinking that this is like a perfectly reasonable expectation here.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because taking into account your temperament and who you are really is key in so many areas of recovery. Because in this example, like, is the ideal meal plan or are the ideal food guidelines aiming really high because you know yourself and you find it easier and more helpful to see sort of like where you're going and to say, oh, so the idea is to aim for 65 to 80% of that meal plan? Or am I someone who goes so fast into all or nothing perfectionistic thinking that actually it's more helpful to have a conversation with my dietitian whereby the meal plan or the food guidelines are actually what is expected of me right now, not what I'm looking at down the road, because I know that I will push myself and I will have that willingness to get there. And so that meets me where I'm at and takes into consideration who I am when the goals are set. And there's no one better way here. And I find it so helpful sometimes to actually take a step back and be like, what actually helps you more? What feels better for you? And how can we find the gray or the flexible in the way that we create the goals as a team for you? Because one thing that works for me, it won't work for everyone, and that's okay.
Yeah. It should be personalized, if possible. I don't see why it wouldn't be possible. But yeah, it is an act of recognizing and being honest with yourself about your and personality as well, which is, I think, where some people feel like they're always running into walls and failing. Because, like, again, back to the alarm example, that's not going to bring me joy. That is not something I want to do. But if I was like ignoring my truth and who I am as a person and setting that goal for me, I would wake up feeling like crap pretty much every morning.
I have bad news for you, Meg. On the Monday of the retreat, you have to wake up early.
I'm good once in a while. Wait, if I'm like waking up for like vacation, I will be up.
Yeah, I don't know why, but that works better, doesn't it?
I'm like, good morning.
I'm ready to go. But I wanted to add one thing because it is so important to keep this in mind with the whole goal setting situation and how you're approaching basically setting yourself up for failure or not. I also want you to be aware of, we're talking about one cognitive distortion right now, all or nothing, black or white thinking. I want you to be aware of what that sounds like for you the most in your life, in your recovery, etc. And when you journal, when you dialogue, when you explore certain topics, it can also be super interesting to actually take a step back, go through it again, and see if you can spot that. I do that often with clients where we're like, well, let's go through that dialogue again. Can you spot cognitive distortions? Because we know this one or that one often sort of like seeps in and appears. And that allows us to know like, oh, I can spot them. And I know that because of its nature, this is a cognitive distortion, I might want to consider taking a little bit of distance from it and sort of being like, okay, so this is just one of those automatic thoughts. Doesn't mean it's the most helpful, might be a very unhelpful, anxiety-inducing shortcut that my brain is suggesting. Is there an alternative here? And I find that the more we do that, the more we can spot them like in the wild, and that can also be super, super helpful.
Yeah, I love that. Just taking some distance and like using your tools like dialoguing and journaling to.
Yeah, because regular journaling works.
Yeah, like that's really helpful with building awareness.
Because to an extent, right, I don't want people to expect from their own brain to just not have cognitive distortions ever again. Like I've challenged all or nothing, black and white thinking so many times for myself. I still think like that every once in a while, right? Like I don't have a brain that's fixed from cognitive distortions. But my work plus the work that we do with clients is really helpful to have a refresher and a reminder very often. But that allows me to sort of know spot them when they sort of sneak back in, and they might be impacting the ways that I'm sort of like narrating my life to myself or journaling about something. And that's the extent of it. Sometimes it's literally just about, oh, I can spot that. Can I take a breather, take a step back? Is there another meaning here? And then it becomes a bit lighter. You know what I mean? Like not everything is fixable. I'm pretty sure cognitive distortions are a very normal human thing.
Yeah, it's not like you go through recovery and you stop having cognitive distortions pop up.
Yeah. So, I haven't. So
yeah, I haven't either. I think I'm very much a flexible thinker, and I do attribute that to recovery. Like my ability to go with the flow and think outside the box and not get upset when things go wrong or the way I didn't plan it. Like recovery teaches you that, which is a massive life skill. So I'm really grateful for that. So everyone listening, if you feel like you're stuck in this mindset, recovery is a great opportunity to unlearn that and like maybe tone it down over time.
Oh, it's definitely toned down.
So you're not suffering because cognitive distortions are thought patterns that just cause pretty much unnecessary distress. So when you can read those, and if you want to learn more about cognitive distortions, the 8 Keys to Recovery book by Carolyn Costin has a few exercises in there where you can like reflect on your own, which I highly recommend. But yeah, I think we're like good to go with this cognitive distortion discussion.
Tongue twister. But yes, I think so.
Awesome. Well, then we will let everyone go. You guys are fabulous. Thank you so much for listening. And Claire, you are thebomb.com. So happy to have you on the show as usual, and sending you lots of hugs and love.
Thank you, Meg.
You're welcome. All right. Talk to you all soon.
Bye.